Hi, my name is Cheri. Welcome to my stamp studio. I apologize right away for my voice. I'm not feeling very well. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I needed to get this filmed because it is a project that we are doing before on stage in Lansing for a class that we are doing. This is one of the projects that we're actually doing in the class. So I have pulled a couple of things out and I want to get it packed up. So I'm going to get it done so I can pack. So what I'm going to show you is a little thing that I came up with. They're super, super cute. And this is actually, I've never done this version of it. So you know how the series that I'm doing right now, how to copy something, this is going to be a copy that I've never done before. But if it turns out cute, cross your fingers. It will be a December camp project. It was actually some of my ladies at camp, it was their idea. They saw what we're going to be making in Lansing and they said, oh, it'd be cute to do a Christmas version. So this is the Christmas version. So what I have is some dice. I'll show you. I bought a big pack of dice from Amazon. I think it was $100 for around $8 or $9, nine or 10. I can't remember. Not a lot. And then my husband took his drill and just drilled a hole in the number 1. So all number 1s have a hole in them. And then he also took just some scrap wood that we had in the garage and made these little triangles. And then I took just little scraps, like we're talking these are little because they're just here, of just scraps of cardstock that I had laying around. And it was mostly after camp, you know, if you cut lots of cardstock, you end up with tons of little strips. So you just take a little strip and you put it on the top. You make sure your number 1's here. I'm not going to do this one. So put a piece of cardstock here. Because I found when I didn't do a cardstock in between the dice and the wood, it didn't stick very well. So you want to put cardstock here and then cardstock here. And then let that dry. So this part will be done for the girls in Lansing. Because they're all dried like this. So I'll show you what they're going to get. And they'll get them at camp like this too. And then I have these tiny little hooks, which are the jewelry version. The sample you're gonna see, I bought at Menards. Let me tell you, the jewelry version are cuter and a whole lot cheaper. The ones at Menards that are actually hardware pieces are a lot more expensive, and they're like $1 each. These are not $1 each. And I will put the links probably after on stage over on my blog, but it's not going to be before on stage. Then my husband has teensy tiny little drill bits, and he drilled a hole in the top. If you have a Dremel, I think, you know, along with not feeling well, my hands are freezing cold. But I think if you have a Dremel, it would also work. And you might screw these in before you do it. I've done them both ways. But you just screw a little hole, and then these have like a screw top on them, the little hooks. But I've done it both ways. I've screwed them in without their tops and with it. So then you just have the little top. So you have a little birdhouse then, a birdhouse shape. And so at camp and in Lansing, they'll be getting them already done like this. So you can see it. And it holds well because I've had mine in the car for quite some time when I was trying to find these locally. And then I thought, why am I doing this? Just find them from Amazon. So then the other thing that you're going to need is a bunch of just tiny, tiny pieces, which normally they would be scrap. When you're doing it for a class, then you end up having to cut these teensy tiny little things. And this is all from the Let It, is it called Let It Snow? It's from the Snowman Designer Series paper. And that's going to cover our walls. And you're going to need 5 pieces because you want the bottom to be covered too. Then I have our craft white stamp pad. This is the part I've not done because our other one's not winter. So take your roof and just smash it into the white. Our other ones are gold, so in Lansing they'll be making gold. And they are using the paper from, I don't remember what it's called. I should have looked that up. I'll show you, and then I will put that over on the blog post or over on Facebook. It will be after Lansing, I'm sure, because since I've been sick, I've had to sleep in hopes of getting better instead of doing all the stuff that was on my to-do list. You have to press because the hook kind of blocks the top. It just needs to get a little bit wet. On the other one, we're using Versamark and gold, so as long as it's wet, I'm not quite sure what the embossing powder is going to do because I'm using the new frosted white. So I'm not sure if it'll look white if I don't, I know it's wet because, you know, embossing powder sticks to everything. So we'll try this. Like I said, this is just an experiment. Get these off here. So this is the Shimmer White Stampin' Embossing Powder. It's new in this year's annual catalog. And hopefully it's going to make it look like it's snowy. And just get it all on here. You're going to do 2 coats. Yeah, it looks like it's stuck everywhere. So as long as this is white enough, then it doesn't matter if it touches everywhere. But I didn't want it to look like it was necessarily wood. I wanted it to be nice and white just because of the paper being nice and bright. And then I took my pick tool and I just slid it right on here. And the nice thing is then your hook becomes whatever color your roof is. It kind of fades into it. There is a danger when you do this that your roof may fall off because, you know, the heat from the gun could melt the glue. If it does, just glue it back on. Because the heat gun can melt the glue. Whoops. I'm going to lose my embossing powder. You know, sometimes when you're sick, you're not thinking with all of your normal thinking powers. This one might not even take 2 coats. Oh yeah, up there it's going to. So while it's still hot, that's why I didn't put my embossing powder up. Just kind of rub it in there again. And while it's hot, it will stick to it. And see, now our little hook is all frosted and looks pretty as well. If you caught my video before this one, which will have posted before this, I told you I didn't do my nails yet for on stage, and this project's why. Although I've come up with, you know, when I originally did mine, you come up with some tips and tricks after your first one. You get that one little spot right there. Sorry, I know the coughing doesn't sound great, but what can you do? And I know by the time I get home, the occasion stuff will be here, and I'll want to do sneak peek videos. So I knew if I didn't get this filmed, the chance of it not getting filmed was high. So I wanted to film it for you. Okay, so now we're just going to take, this got used on a lot of projects. So all of my things, because it's kind of a new thing I've discovered, and it doesn't stay dry forever. And it's been maybe 2 hours now that this has been in here because I have a lot to do on my to-do list. So I'll see if it's wet. This is just some liquid, fine tip liquid glue, but we don't need the fine tip feature. We need it to go on faster. See, it's still wet because I put it in an empty one of these. I think if you were going to leave it for a long time, and I might take some plastic wrap or Glad wrap with us to on stage. And then this is just an empty Stella pen because a couple of years ago, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I went through a, you know, where your studios just have way too much stuff, and I got rid of everything that I hadn't used forever. So I got rid of all of my paintbrushes. And the first time I did this, I just did it all with my hands. Oops. So just kind of glue these on here. So I had no paintbrushes to use. And these are all just different pieces of the snowman paper. The nice thing on this white design, the snow design, is if they don't go right up to the edge, then you have a white snow-covered design, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to put that as my bottom piece because it's my least favorite of them. I'm going to need some more glue. That little bit of glue, you're going to see this 3 times on all 3 videos. I ended up using my Stella, or on all 3 projects that I was working on, because as much as I love the fine tip glue, sometimes you just don't need it. That feature of it. Because you need the glue faster than what the fine tip is. Now when you do it on this front one, you just need to remember, let's put this little snowflakey one on front, and I do need some more glue. So because I don't need a fine tip, it's much faster to just open it out. You don't want to pour a ton because you don't want to waste it. But just pour it in there and then seal it back. And the fine tip is great if you're using glitter, except that's what I used it for on my swaps. And when I was doing a lot of swaps, it was a whole lot easier to do it this way because the Stella brush tips is pretty fine, and I was able to brush it on a whole lot quicker than I was to squeeze that little puppy. And after a lot of squeezing when you don't feel good, it was just easier. So you put that one on here, take your pick tool, and just jam the hole in there. Now it takes them all just a minute to sit, and I don't know if it's going to sit long enough. At camp and in Lansing, I will have little styrofoam plates, and they can all just write their names on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the other ones and see if this sets up at all, because it takes a minute to kind of grab to the plastic of the dice. Yeah, it's moving. It just needs a minute to set. So we'll move that aside and see if this set up so I can finish on this video. Close this up and I'll show you the ones that we're making. Oh, it's the heirloom, heirloom something paper. It's part of the heirloom suite. It's the very front of the catalog. So these are the ones we're doing in Michigan. This is the original one I made. And you can see the hooks are just a whole lot bigger. They're much nicer to have a smaller one. So these have some elements that you might not use a lot. Everybody's going to get a little piece of the shimmery laser cut paper. We did them in gold. These are the magnolia accents, and everybody's going to get a bow and then a bunch of pearls. And then you can just pick which of the colors. All of us have different favorite colors. If you saw my jewelry video, you know I'm a big fan of like camo. You may notice from my videos, and green is my color. So I picked those kind of colors, and I went with a little one that kind of looked like a shingle. But we already have their bags packed, so everybody will just get to be creative. And then this one's more of the peaches and the blues. And this is more of the seafoam. So they turn out super cute. So I'm hoping if I can finish this one. If I don't, if it's not going to be dry, then I will just finish it and I will take a picture. And it'll be the picture on the cover of this. Let's flip back over here. Because if you do this at a class, or if you do it, like when we do it, I will have them do one stage at our class and then go do another project and then come back. You can see it starting to set now. And the nice thing about this glue, the fine tip glue, is it's reminiscent of our crystal effects. It dries shiny. And it gives it kind of like a embossed shellac kind of look. And it works really well on holding everything on here. The bottom one's the last one I did, and you can see it starting to hold on there. And be generous with the glue. You don't want your stuff to curl up or fall off. And this is why we're giving them a little styrofoam plate. If it sticks a little bit to the bottom, as you pull it off, the styrofoam's pretty good about not sticking. And they can write their name on it, and everybody will know whose is whose. We're doing pretty good. It doesn't take very long at all to make these. You can make a whole little set. If you have one of the advent calendars, it would be super fun. Oops. I tried to seal the hole up and I took the whole thing off. You want to make sure that your hole doesn't get a glob of glue like mine just did. Otherwise you lose the effect of the birdhouse hole. I don't have a paper plate here, so it's going to glue itself to the paper if I don't. We'll put it here. So then on this one, thought we could put some of the red rhinestones. And again, you don't, because these, if it's going to be jewelry or a bag tag or a keychain or even a Christmas ornament on your tree, you want a little bit more stability than just the adhesive that's on our papers. So these are just the red rhinestones, again, from the annual catalog. Let's add a couple of these to this side. And I'm going for where I put the glue. It can all just be very random. Whoops. I take your pick tool, has a lot of glue on it, and you can just take a magic eraser or take some soap and water when you're done with these projects and wipe them off. Look how cute that is. And then I also have the snowflakes. These are from the, I probably don't even need to put any because this is probably still wet enough. These are from the snow globe. Sweet. See if I can pick that up. There we go. It's all starting to stick really nicely. Let's get one of the big snowflakes. Put it right there on the front. And another red one. There was one thing I wanted to try. I'm not sure if it'll work. I didn't know if we could add the snowfall puff paint. So let's see. It could destroy the whole thing. This is part of my process you don't normally get to see because normally I have finished them all before. This, when you're done with a project, like when you're all the way finished, take it and run some water. As you're working, just keep popping the lid back on, and I have found that they stay pretty good. Like the lids don't dry up as long, the bristles don't dry up as long as you put the lid on. So this is the Snowfall Accent Puff Paint. It's kind of resisting the embossing powder. Who knew? I'm just gonna, you'll have to do one side at a time if it does work. And then this is my Dazzling Diamonds, which kind of matches. It's a different color of glitter than the embossing powder was, but it sticks to it. So we'll just see if this works. It does. It's not exactly where I wanted it to be, so let's move it. Well, it's still hot. It's kind of pliable. There we go. We can do another side. Let's do one side at a time at all of this. The problem is we've got this tilt going. Let's do it. You can see that everything's already, like this is already touch dry. Oops. I kind of want it to look like it's falling down the roof, as it is here in Indiana in November. When I was a teenager, we went through a spate of Novembers where it snowed, because my birthday is in November, so I remember. Not going to do the glitter. We'll see if we like it better. I don't know that the glitter made that much difference because the other stuff was already glittery. That's pretty good. And this side doesn't have any embellishments. So let's go back to our little glue. And see, you just work one side at a time. These were easier because it doesn't have any puff paint on it. Let's get our little, all of my things start to look the same. Where'd my glue one go? There it is, the glue see-through. There's stars and sequins and snowflakes in this little pack if you haven't gotten it yet. And they're just the right size for the tiny little houses. Let's get this side. And please, this is working. You never know when you go live with do a video without ever having done the project before. There we go. Now let's put a red embellishment back there, which remember it needs a touch of glue, so let's add the glue. If you missed our class in Lansing and you're in the Great Lakes region, which is what Stampin' Up! Calls us, we're going to be having another one in January, towards the beginning of celebration. So you will be most certainly welcome to join us at that one. And we may do a live and an online version of that one as well. This one was just a live. Since it wasn't at home, we decided to just do easy. But most of the time we offer both a live and an online. And sometimes they're for customers and sometimes they're for demonstrators, and most of the time they are for both. This was for both, but I don't think we had anybody that was not a demonstrator sign up for this one. This one already has my embellishments because, you know, I wasn't really thinking. So we'll hope they don't come off. If they come off, I'll just glue some more on. They're lifting up a little bit, but I think that I can smack them back on there. Yep, there we go. Set all of our sides now of our tiny little Christmas house. Needs some red bling up here. What do you think? Maybe one on this side. The red looks really pretty on that frosty house. I think that's it. As you can see, you might look at these and think, oh, that's so tedious. That will take a super long time. As you can see, it hardly took any time at all. So, especially if you can get your husband to go cut the tops for you and drill the holes. That takes the longest part of the project. Not if you're doing one at a time and if you have a Dremel or if you have a drill set up in your garage. I will tell you, these were black dice and these were white dice. So he was a little bit concerned when I got the white dice that you weren't going to be able to see the hole inside, but I think you can, especially on these little Christmas ones. So that's what I have for you today. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you in Lansing, and hopefully I will feel better by the time Friday gets here. Have a great day. Bye.